Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about the small dice game Dungeon Roll. I think this came out in 2013. It was one of the first games I kickstarted. I don't think it was the first, but it was one of the one of the early games that I ever kickstarted, and I think it was pretty cheap, like $15 or something like that. But let me get started with how to set up. First thing you'll do is remove all contents from the box except for these treasure tokens. You'll leave those in the box as players will be drawing randomly from there. Next, from your selection of heroes, you randomly deal one hero card to each player, or alternatively you can have each hero select or each player select the hero they want to play. After players get their hero card, it's double-sided. They want to start on this wooden board looking side. They can flip to the other side once they gain experience. But to begin with, they start on the novice side, which has this wooden board. So I'm gonna, for my demo here, I'm gonna use the knight, the enchantress, and the spell sword. You then need to, somewhere near the players, put your dragon's lair and your graveyard. Now, I think maybe these cards were only included in the Kickstarter. If you bought the retail edition, it may not have come with these cards. I can't remember for sure. But if not, you just have an area that's going to be an area for your graveyard and an area for your dragon's lair. Alright, then the instructions don't mention anything about this, but you'll want to put your 7 party dice and your 7 dungeon dice somewhere where all players can reach them. You want to put your experience tokens somewhere close by. I've just got mine in this little token holder. You can deal each player one of these reference or player aid cards, and then set your dungeon level die somewhere nearby. The rules say the player who is most recently underground starts as the first adventurer. I'm just going to have my player here, the knight player, start as the first adventurer. The player to his left will be the dungeon lord. So to his left, that will be this player over here. And that will complete setup. So let's move on to how to play. Alright, the first thing that happens, the current adventurer will roll the 7 party dice to form their party. So whatever they roll, they just put those near them in their play area. And that will be their starting party. We've got the swords here are fighters. The wizard or mage hat there, those are mages. The little mask looking thing here, those are thieves. This hammer with a circle around it is a cleric. And I think the only other thing we haven't seen here is a champion if you roll that. Oh, and a scroll. Alright, but this was a cleric. Alright, so that's my starting party. The current dungeon lord will set the level dice at level 1 to start out. The dungeon lord will take the dungeon dice and he'll roll a number of dice equal to the current level, which is 1, so he will roll 1 die. Alright, so then the game is played in phases. You have the monster phase, the loot phase, the dragon phase, and the regroup phase. In the monster phase, players can use any scroll, like if they had a scroll in their party instead of that cleric, you can use a scroll to re-roll any party dice and any dungeon dice that were rolled. Whenever a player uses a die to do something, first they put the die in the graveyard and then they take the action with it. So if this player wanted to use this scroll to re-roll some of his party die and some dungeon die, or you could just roll re-roll all the dungeon die. Now in this case we're only on level 1, so there's only one, but later when you're on level 2, 3, 4, then there'll be 2, 3, or 4 dice in there. So if you, just for this example, say this player was going to use this scroll, maybe he didn't like having 2 thieves here, so he's going to re-roll his thieves and this dungeon die, which he wouldn't do. But alright, so this time he got a champion and a thief, and he got a goblin. Alright, so you can use your scrolls. Then also in the monster phase, you can use your companions that are in the, your party to defeat monsters. So any one of these companions can defeat one monster, but some have special abilities. So if this was later, we'll just say this was later, like when you're at level 3, if you'd rolled 2 goblins, maybe, and a skeleton. Well, a fighter, you can use a fighter die, move a fighter die to the graveyard to defeat any number of goblins. So he could defeat both of these goblins. And then he would have to use one other companion to defeat the skeleton. Then you would have 4 companions left. So let's talk about how each of these work. So the fighter can defeat any one. Let's look at the dungeon dice. You got skeletons, dragon, goblin, potion, ooze, treasure chest, and I think that's it. So a fighter can be used to defeat any number of goblins or any one ooze or skeleton, and it could also be used to open one chest. A cleric can defeat any number of skeletons that are rolled in the dungeon or on your dungeon dice, but then can only open one chest or defeat one ooze or one goblin. A mage can defeat any number of oozes, but can only open one chest, one skeleton, or defeat one goblin. A thief can only defeat one ooze, one skeleton, one goblin, but can open any number of chests. You open the chests in the loot phase. We haven't gotten to that yet. And then finally, the champion can defeat any number of goblins, can defeat any number of oozes, can defeat any number of skeletons, and can open any number of chests in the loot phase. Now the dragon, when the Dungeon Lord rolls the dice, any dragons that come up go over here into the dragon's lair. So in the monster phase, you've got to use your scrolls, use your heroes to defeat any monsters that are rolled, and then you move on to the loot phase. So we'll just set up an example here. We'll say this player is at the 3rd level of the dungeon, so 3 dice are rolled. He got 2 goblins and a treasure. So in the monster phase, before he can move to the loot phase, you've got to defeat any monsters. So he could spend this one fighter to defeat both these goblins, and that leaves him a chest. Now you have the option, you don't have to open the chest if you don't want to, but that's one way to get experience, but of course you do have to use one of your companions to do that. So with just one chest, any one of these companions could open the chest. If there were 2 chests there, then you'd probably want to use your thief or your champion, because they could open any number of chests with just 1 dice. So we'll say maybe this player decides to use his mage to open this chest. So when you open the chest, you get to open the treasure box here, and without looking, draw 1 token out. That token will be worth 1 experience at the end of the game if you still have it, or you can use it for whatever its picture and function is, but then it is discarded. So for instance, this treasure token, you can use that to, it's dragon bait, you can use that to transform any monsters that are rolled into dragon faces, and then those are moved to the dragon's lair. Let's look at some of the others. This is a town portal. Again, this one will be worth, if you still have it at the end of the game, it'll be worth 2 extra experience, or you can discard it to use it at any point during your dungeon delve and transport you out of the dungeon, and then you collect your experience depending on what level you were in the dungeon. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. A Scepter of Power. It can just be used as a mage die. If you have it, you can discard it and act like it's a mage to defeat a monster or any number of oozes, or again, it'll be worth 1 experience at the end of the game. A Dragon Scale is only worth 1 experience at the end of the game, but if you have a pair of them at the end of the game, it'll be worth an additional 2 experience. So you'll get the 1 experience for each individual one, and then you get 2 experience more for having a pair. A potion is worth 1 experience at the end of the game, or you can use it during the game, discard it to revive one of your party die from the graveyard, set it to any face you want, and put it back with your party. A Ring of Invisibility is just worth 1 experience at the end of the game, or you can use it to clear all dice from the dragon's lair, but that does not count as defeating the dragon. We haven't talked about fighting the dragon in the dragon phase yet, but just remember when we get to that you can use your Ring of Invisibility to clear all the dice in the dragon's lair. A scroll can be used just like a scroll in your party, so you can use it, discard it to re-roll any number of party dice you still have and any number of dungeon dice that were rolled, or if you have it at the end of the game, it's worth 1 experience. A Vorpal Sword token can be used as a fighter, just like a fighter die, or if you still have it at the end of the game, it's worth 1 experience. A Thieves' Tool token can be used as a thief die. Discard it to use it as a thief, or it's worth 1 experience at the end of the game. And finally, the last type is the Talisman, which can be used as a cleric, or it's worth 1 point if you still have it at the end of the game. And it says all of that on the back of your little player aid card, what the tokens are. And your player aid card also shows you, that the fighter can defeat any number of goblins, or 1 skeleton, or 1 ooze, or open 1 chest. The cleric can defeat 1 goblin, or any number of skeletons, or 1 ooze, or open 1 chest. And so it just shows you the power of each one and what the dragon scroll and potions are. We'll talk about the dragons next here and the potions. Alright, so again, in the monster phase, you'll use the dice in your party to defeat any monsters that were rolled by the dungeon lord. Any dice you use are placed in the graveyard and won't be available when you move to the next level in the dungeon. As I mentioned, if you roll any dragons, they go into the dragon's lair. But after you've defeated any of the monsters, that's when you go to the loot phase, and you can use members of your party to open treasure or to drink potions. So the treasure I mentioned, you can use any member of your party to open 1 treasure chest, and the champion and the thief could open multiple treasure chests if you'd rolled multiple. And then if you open the treasure, you grab 1 of the treasure tokens out of here. The potions, you can use 1 member of your party to quaff or drink any number of potions, and for each potion you drink, you get to revive one party member out of the graveyard back into your party and set it to any face that you want. So if there's only one potion there, it's probably not worth it because you're swapping one die for another die. I mean, you get to set it to what you want, but it's still not a very good trade-off. However, if maybe there was 2 or more potions and you only had to spend one person, he can quaff any number of the potions. So you could spend 1 to drink both these potions and then get 2 dice back and set them, to whatever you want. So probably champions. So anyway, that's what the potions are. So in the loot phase, you can open chest or quaff potions. Then you move to the dragon phase. If there's less than 3 dragon dice in the dragon's lair, then you just skip the dragon phase. However, if there are 3 or more dragon's head dice in the dragon's lair when you get to the dragon phase, then you've attracted the attention of the dragon and you have to defeat the dragon. To defeat the dragon, you have to use 3 different you have to have 3 different companions in your party and spend 3 different ones to defeat the dragon. Even if you couldn't have 3 champions, even though the champion can defeat any number of any of the other type of monsters, for the dragon, you've got to have 3 different types of companions to defeat it. If you don't, then you just are defeated and leave the dungeon and gain no experience. If you do defeat the dragon, then you get to draw 1 treasure and get 1 experience token. Alright, then after the dragon phase, if you didn't have to fight, if there weren't 3 dragon head tokens as a dragon's dice in the dragon's lair, then you just skip on past the dragon phase. If there were, then you have to fight, as I mentioned, but then you go to the regroup phase. If you didn't get defeated by the dragon, if you got defeated by the dragon, then you don't do the regroup phase because you're just defeated. But if you go to the regroup phase, then you decide whether you want to move on to the next level, where the dungeon lord will then advance the dungeon level die and roll that number of dungeon dice that you'll have to defeat with your remaining party members. Or you can just retire and gain an amount of experience depending on the level of the dungeon you were at. So if you just retired after level 1, you'd get 1 experience token, put it in your area, and then your delve is over. If you were all the way up to level 10, which that's very rare to happen, I would say, then you're forced to retire and just take your 10 experience and end your delve. Or, as I said, so if you don't retire, you can decide to seek glory and go on to the next level, so the dungeon lord will advance the dice to the next level, and then he'll roll a number of dungeon dice depending on what level he's advanced to. And then you'll do the same thing again, a monster phase, loot phase, dragon phase, and then regroup phase, where you decide whether you want to go on to the next level or retire. If in the monster phase you're unable to defeat all the monsters, then you just flee the dungeon and end your delve, and you don't gain any experience for that delve. Or as I mentioned, if in the dragon phase you're unable to defeat the dragon, then you just flee the dungeon and end your delve, and you get no experience. So in either case, whether you retire or lose because you couldn't fight the monsters, or got defeated by the monsters of the dragon, once you retire or get defeated, then you pass the party dice on to the player that was the dungeon lord previously. Dungeon lord will pass his dice to the player to the left, and then the new adventure player will roll his party dice to form his party, and the new Dungeon Lord will reset the dice to 1, and then he'll start by rolling 1 dungeon dice, and so continue like that until each player has had 3 delves into the dungeon. After each player's had 3 delves into the dungeon, then you add up the player's experience, and whoever has the most total experience wins. Now, we didn't talk about each player has their hero, and their hero has some special abilities, so their specialty ability can be used whenever it says. So the knight, when forming the party, all scrolls become champions. So when he rolls his 7 dice to form his party, any scrolls that he rolls get turned into champions. Then he has this 1 time per delve ability, the battle cry, that he can use and transform all monsters to dragon faces and move them to the dragon's lair. Once he's used that ability, he rotates his card, and it can't be used again during that delve. When it comes his turn for his next delve, he rotates it back up when he rolls his party dice to form his party. Now, you'll notice once you have 5 XP, once you've gained 5 experience, you can flip your card over to its master side, and then your specialty abilities usually change. So when forming the party, all scrolls become champions, and he can use 2 different companions to defeat the dragon instead of 3. And his battle cry seems to stay the same: transform all monster to dragon faces and move them to the dragon's lair. But each hero has a different specialty and different special ability. So that's it really on how to play. It's a really quick, really simple dice game. So why don't we go through like 1 round of each player doing their delve and just see how the game plays. Alright, so we're going to start again with the knight being our first player. The player playing the spell sword will be the Dungeon Lord, so he'll set the dungeon level die to 1, and he'll take all the dungeon dice. The knight player will roll to form his party. Alright, you got a thief, champion, 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 thief, thief, and a fighter. Alright, so he didn't roll any. Remember, if he had rolled any scrolls, they would turn to champions, but he didn't roll any. Alright, it's level 1, so the Dungeon Lord player only rolls 1 monster die. Alright, we got a goblin, so the knight player, he can use pretty much any one of these to defeat that goblin. He's going to use a thief, so he defeats the goblin. Alright, go on to the loot phase, but there's no loot. Go on to the dragon phase, there's no dragon dice, so they don't have to fight the dragon. So now we go to the regroup phase, so we decide if we want to retire. If we retired now, since we're only on level 1, we would just get 1 experience. There's no sense in retiring now with all these people still companions still in our party. So we say we're going to seek glory and continue, so the Dungeon Lord advances the die to level 2, and now he'll roll 2 dungeon dice. Alright, we got 1 dragon, so that immediately gets moved to the dragon's lair. The other one is a chest, so there's no monsters to fight, so we just immediately move to the loot phase. So this player can decide, does he want to spend a guy to open the chest, or just skip it and go on to level 3. I think we'll just say he's going to open the chest, so he'll spend a thief to open the chest, so he gets to draw a token out of here without looking. Let's see what he gets. Alright, he got a dragon scale. Alright, so now this is opened. Alright, now he decides whether he wants to retire. If he retires now, since he's at level 2, he'll just get 2 experience. Or he can seek glory and continue on. He's going to do that, so the Dungeon Lord will advance to level 3, and this time he'll roll 3 dice. Alright, we got a ooze, skeleton, and a treasure chest. So monster phase, we've got to defeat the ooze and the skeleton. Unfortunately, that's going to take 2 of our dice. I guess we'll use our thief and our thief to defeat one of them, and the fighter to defeat the other one. Now we move to the loot phase. I think we're not going to spend one of our guys to open that chest. So we go to the dragon phase. There's only 1 dice in there, so we don't face the dragon. And we'll tell the Dungeon Lord we're going to seek glory, so we now move to level 4. Alright, so now the Dungeon Lord will roll 4 dice. Got a potion, a treasure, a skeleton, and an ooze. Alright, unfortunately we got to use 2 of our party to defeat the ooze and the skeleton. There's 1 member of our party left. He could drink that potion, but that would only get us 1 dice back, so there's no point in that. He can't open that chest, so he's going to do that. So now we draw another token out of here. And we got a Vorpal sword, which can be used as a fighter. Alright, we go to that was the loot phase. I'm not going to do anything with that potion, so now we go to the dragon phase. There's only 1 dragon, so I don't have to face the dragon. Now I go to the regroup phase, and since I have no members in my party left, I'm going to go ahead and retire. So I was at level 4, so I get 4 experience, so I'll take a 3 and a 1. These are all mostly double-sided, so they have a 1 on one side and a 5 or a 3 or a 10 on the other side. But anyway, so 4 experience, so he takes 4 experience tokens, puts it in his play area, and that's going to end his delve. Now he didn't get 5, so he can't flip over to his master side, but that's going to end his delve. So now the Dungeon Lord player will pass the dungeon dice to his left, and to the player to his left will become the Dungeon Lord, and all the party dice are passed to the player that was the Dungeon Lord, and now he'll form his party. Now he's got a special power. Fighters may be used as mages, and mages may be used as fighters. And then his arcane blade, here's a 1 time per delve power. Spell sword may be used as a fighter or a mage. Alright, let's roll his dice, see what he gets. Oh, he got a bunch of champions, 2 mages, and a cleric. Alright, so the Dungeon Lord now sets the dice to level 1, rolls 1 dungeon die. It's a dragon, so there's no monster phase, no loot phase. The dragon phase, there's only 1 die in there, so he doesn't have to face the dragon. So he just, now has to decide whether to retire or seek glory and move on. He's obviously going to move on, so the Dungeon Lord advances to level 2. And now he'll roll 2 dungeon dice. This time he got an ooze and a skeleton. So in the monster phase, this guy's got to spend 2 of his dice. So he'll spend a champion and a mage, so they go to the graveyard. Now he's defeated the ooze and the skeleton. There's nothing to do in the loot phase. Dragon phase, he doesn't have to fight the dragon. He decides he's going to seek glory and continue on, so Dungeon Lord advances to level 3 and rolls 3 dice. Dragon immediately goes into the dragon's lair. He's got a potion and a skeleton. So he says, yeah, I'll spend a champion to defeat the skeleton, and I'm just not going to do anything with that potion, so that's my loot phase. And now I decide if I want to go on. He decides he will seek glory and continue on, so we go to level 4. So now the Dungeon Lord will roll 4 dice. We got another dragon, so he'll have to defeat a dragon, but he can do it because, alright, first thing, the monster phase, he's only got 1 monster, so he'll spend his champion to defeat that 1 monster. Now remember, in the dragon phase, he's going to have to fight it because there's 3 dragons and he needs 3 different companions, so that's exactly what he has. So he can't use any of those to open the treasure or drink the potion, so he's just gonna skip the loot phase and not do anything with those. Now we do have to fight the dragon in the dragon phase because he's got 3 dragons. He does have 3 different companions, so he defeats the dragon. So he uses all 3 of those. For defeating the dragon, he gets to draw 1 treasure. He gets a Ring of Invisibility, and he gets 1 experience. Alright, and that ends the dragon phase. Now the regroup phase, obviously he's not got anybody left in his party, so he's going to retire. He was at level 4, so he will also get 4 experience. So not enough to level up yet. Alright, so now all the dungeon dice are passed to the player to the previous dungeon lord's left, along with the dungeon level die. All the party dice come to the last dungeon lord, where now she will roll to form her party. Alright, she rolls. She's got 3 scrolls, a mage, a thief, another mage, and a champion. And she's got a special power that scrolls may be used as any companion. So those scrolls, she can either use them for what they normally can be used for, to re-roll dice, or she can use them as any companion. And then her 1 time per delve power, charm monster, she can transform 1 monster into a potion. Alright, the player to her left is the dungeon lord. He sets the level dice to level 1, rolls 1 dice. Got a treasure chest. Yeah, she says she's going to open that, so she'll spend a scroll as a thief. It doesn't really matter. She's going to open that treasure, so she gets to draw a treasure token. Alright, she got a talisman, so remember that can be used as a cleric. Alright, that was the loot phase. No dragon phase. There's no dragon thing in there, so now she decides to seek glory again. So the dungeon lord will go to level 2. He'll roll 2 dice. Dragon goes in there, and a treasure chest. So no monster phase, so now she'll decide. She says, yeah, I'll go ahead and open that treasure. So she's going to spend 1 die to have her mage open treasure. Grab a treasure token out of there. Got a Scepter of Power that can be used as a mage. So that dice is done. Only 1 dice in the dragon's lair, so nothing to do in the dragon phase. Now she decides whether she wants to go on. She does. So advance to level 3. Roll 3 dice. Alright, I got 2 skeletons and a goblin. So she can use this scroll as a cleric, which will defeat both skeletons. Remember, a cleric can defeat 2 skeletons, or any number of skeletons. And then, I guess she'll use her thief to defeat this goblin. I'm sorry, got to put it in the graveyard. And nothing to loot in the loot phase. Not enough dragons, so no dragon fight in the dragon phase. Now she's down to 3 dice, and she's got to decide if she wants to go on to level 4. Yeah, she's going to do it. So she says advance to level 4. So this time, the guy's going to roll 4 dice. Now that's not too bad. 2 potions, a goblin, and an ooze. So she's going to transform. She's going to use her 1-time power to transform 1 monster into a potion. So she's going to turn this goblin into a potion. And then she'll use one of her tokens so this can be used as a cleric. She's going to use that, so that just goes back in the treasure box, and she's using it. And she's going to use that cleric to defeat this ooze. Now, any one of her remaining dice can be used to drink all three of those potions. So she'll use her scroll as any, because her power, scrolls can be used as anything. She'll say she uses as a thief to drink all three potions, which allows her to get 3 dice back out of the graveyard and set them to whatever she wants. So we'll say she's going to do a fighter, a champion, and a thief. And now she's going to go ahead and try to go on. So she's going to go on to level 5. So 5 dice get rolled, 2 oozes, a skeleton, a treasure, and a potion. Alright, she can use her mage to defeat both oozes. She'll use her fighter to defeat the skeleton. She'll use, alright, so that's all the monster phase. She'll use her thief to open this treasure. So now she gets to draw out of the treasure. Alright, she got a town portal. And then she's not going to do anything with this potion. She's got 2 champions left. But, she would have to go to level 6 and fight 6 dice with just 2 champions. She doesn't think she's going to do it, try to do it, so she's going to retire. She was at level 5, so she gets 5 experience points. That does let her flip her card over to its master side. Let's see what difference she got. Oh, she can transform 2 monsters into 1 potion. Her specialty remains the same. Alright, so she's done. So now each player has delved into the dungeon once. So now it would come back to the knight, where now he would do another delve into the dungeon. And so he would gain more experience, hopefully, unless he got, defeated. So anyway, you continue like this until each player's had 3 delves. Then you add up the experience, including any experience you get for your treasure tokens you didn't use. And whoever has the most experience wins. So that's it. I think if you don't have a lot of time, maybe 30 minutes to play something, this is a quick, fun little dice game. It doesn't really have a high rating on Board Game Geek. I think it's rated like a 6.1. I don't know, I think it's a little better than that. I mean, it's not a deep strategic game, but it does have a little strategy to it, and it's a quick, fun game, so I enjoy it. I do have some kind of expansion for it. This Winter Heroes pack. I think it adds some other heroes and some different tokens. And actually, the Kickstarter, I think, came with more heroes in it than what the normal base game came with. But anyway, this is not in print anymore, as I believe the company that made this went out of business. But I'm sure you can find a used copy of it out there somewhere for not very much if it's interesting to you. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.